The Nature of Belief Constructs. An essay by James Mahu. Question: if our beliefs create our reality, how do we make sure that our beliefs support our highest possible reality? Answer: virtually every metaphysical and spiritual path has one thing in common: our belief system affects our reality. Some of these will go so far as to affirm that our beliefs are our reality. They are interchangeable, which is to say, what you believe determines what you experience, and what you experience determines what you believe. They are symbiotic. They mesh and co-create like two independent streams that come together to create a single river, reality. Beliefs, if they hold such importance in our lives, how to reform them into practical, positive, and ever-present influences in our lives would be essential to understand. However, in order to understand the importance of beliefs, we must understand some fundamental constructs that undergird our belief system, and therefore, our reality. These are broad brushstrokes, lacking detail, however, they provide an energetic definition. I refer to these as belief constructs. Construct 1, one and all. This defines first source and source intelligence. First source being the one, and source intelligence being the all. In religious works, these would be called God and Spirit. Construct 2, one, many, and all consciousness. This is the sovereign integral. That aspect of ourselves that is infinite, yet individualized as a sovereign entity that is simultaneously interconnected with all existence. It remains forever an integral and important aspect of one and all. In religious and metaphysical works, this would be called the soul. Construct 3, wholeness. This is the allness and integral nature of existence. There is existence and non-existence, and they are infinite yet separate in infinitude. That is to say, that which is non-existent will remain so in infinity, and that which is existent will also remain so in infinity. The aspect that exists can only exist in wholeness, because it is an aspect of the one and all, regardless of its incarnational structure and reality. This construct is not of spacetime. It is not of duality. It is not of dimensionality. It is the realm of one and all, which is the only realm in which true wholeness can exist experientially. All other experiences of wholeness are echoes of the one and all, stepped down in order to embody within spacetime duality. They feel like oneness and unity, yet they remain an echo of the consciousness of one and all. Construct 4. Free will. This is the method through which the one and all creates authentic learning for all its parts. If the one and all controlled the will of its creation in all its various species, it would control the learning, and a bias would be expressed, and therefore learning would be inauthentic to the density of spacetime duality. The ability to bring higher dimensional understanding into lower dimensional spacetimes would be thwarted by this bias. Construct 5. Design is purpose. There was a design in the inception of existence. Existence is the result of creation, and creation is the result of purpose. Purpose is the result of design. Design is the result of the will of one and all. Thus, it is will that determines all of existence. This will comes from one and all, and simply because of this, we exist, we are infinite, we are always, and we are connected to one and all, and therefore all existence. This results in a purpose of learning how to embody within the lower dimensions of the learning centers we call planets and solar bodies, and remain aligned to one and all. Construct 6. Reality-making incarnations. The sovereign integral incarnates into densities that provide unique experience in dreamlike realities. These dreamlike realities provide spacetime dimensionality and duality, with free will and sovereign expression. These incarnations can be as simple as a fruit fly or as complex as a sentient being of near-infinite intelligence, and everywhere in between. This is particularly important to understand that you exist as a sovereign integral first and foremost. Its reality is not a simulation or dream, meaning, it is not born, lives, and dies. It exists as an infinite individuality that is forever in connection to one and all. The incarnational aspects of our sovereign integral are the lens through which it learns how to expand its understanding in dimensionality, the same as one and all. This is why the sovereign integral and first source, one and all, are aligned, co-creators, in a post-inception existence. Everyone and everything is aligned, even in entropy and discord, beauty and ugliness, love and hate. The alignment is unseen in the reality-making mechanism of the physical body. Our hyper-focus on the dream and simulation of three-dimensional realities, their density of vibration, their duality of decisions, their dynamic modulation, and their deafening silence of the inmost self, has blinded us to the scope of who we are. It has kept the small picture looming over the big picture, and we fall into the trap of polarity engagement. We separate into family, packs, tribes, organizations, societies, and species. Construct 7. Reality simulations. Reality in space-time duality is experienced in a singular moment, and that moment, when it is part of space-time duality, is held within a simulation or dream. The part of us that is truly us, the sovereign integral, is the creator of the simulation that our bodies, minds, subconscious, egos, and emotions experience through the interpretive power we invest in our sovereign integral consciousness. If we do not invest anything in our sovereign integral consciousness, then our simulation is exclusively designed for our human identity. Our identity as an incarnational existence begins with our ego, our body, our mind's will, and our emotional beliefs, not with the sovereign integral, which creates the simulation. No outside intelligence or technology creates the simulation of our experience in space-time duality. The creator is us, and within each species, there is a collective us, the many. The one and all creates the infinite. The infinite creates the universal. The universal creates the collective species. The collective species creates the individual. The individual creates its reality of space-time duality. The individual's reality creates a lens for one and all. This is the holographic simulation that exists across all levels of existence, all species, all spacetimes, and yet, no reality is the same. Construct 8. Expansion. The purpose of existence in density is to expand the one, many and all consciousness of the one and all into dimensionality so that all dimensions in spacetime have an aspect within it that holds and offers the flame of one and all intelligence. This requires the ongoing expansion of light into darkness, of wisdom into ignorance, of love into absence. More than that is the harmonization of a galaxy for the benefits of peace and the shared objective to expand wisdom, understanding, and sustainable harmony. Our belief constructs, once understood, become the foundation of our belief system at its most fundamental level. When we can feel and imagine these constructs, and begin to see them take expression in our behaviors, we can begin to more easily believe in them, and from there, the echoes of this heightened sense of our sovereign integral, of the structure of a higher reality that creates our life, we can more easily flow within the realities of our creation. It does not mean we remain enraptured, strumming a harp in the most beautiful of imaginable worlds. That we flow easily through life, untouched by challenges and difficulties. It means we understand and believe in a higher reality that includes these fundamental belief constructs. We do this not because we desire to manifest something or even to change the world. We do this in order to feel aligned to one and all, which is our most fundamental expression of love. The simulations of an infinite number of sovereign integrals interact, sometimes harmoniously and sometimes in utter conflict. And this, more than any other factor, is a result of the educational systems of our reality. It has been left to religion, personal development, and philosophy to educate our young, but these constructs from religion and theology are tired and woven into mythology. The constructs of philosophy are so needlessly complicated as to numb the mind, while the constructs of personal development are practical, but not of the higher reality. And even if these sources of education held the truth of this higher reality in clear language without any sense of ownership or control, these institutions only attract a small percentage of the total population, and therefore, simulations are corrupted by the lack of education regarding the higher reality of belief constructs. The construct of reality simulation pairs beautifully with synchronicity. When we experience what Carl Jung referred to as synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence, we understand that our core self is communicating with us. It is as if it is saying, I am showing you that I exist, and what you experience is a consequence of my creation and interpretation. What is born within me is experienced by you differently than what is born within your species. Understand this difference, and you will be guided. There is the collective us that is an outside influence, and there is the sovereign us that is the internal interpreter who creates definitions and beliefs from personal experience, and then creates its reality. It is wise to use our imaginative power to interact with our sovereign, innermost self. We can do this through a form of prayer or meditation. It is an access that we grant ourselves, a priority of our life's mission. In order to grant ourselves access, we can form a belief in the aforementioned constructs. Not as I have laid them out, but as we interpret them. Always our interpretation is what guides us. If we all read the same book, we will all have a different interpretation of that book. This is the law of granularity. If you measure a shoreline in meters, it might be 100 miles long, but if you zoom in and measure it at the resolution of a nanometer, the distance of that same shoreline might be 1,000,000 miles long. Similarly, if you measure the granularity of our beliefs in high resolution, the differences are staggeringly large, even among the same species. This difference in belief is precisely what creates social conditioning, instinctual awareness, collective unconscious reasoning, and even intuition derives its existence from this difference in our sovereign beliefs. They are bundled together in the collective of a species, all species, but they are nonetheless not fundamental. They are not our reality-making machinery. They influence, but they do not create. And this is because we are sovereign interpreters with free will. We decide our influences. We decide our interpretations. We decide what we believe. There is no one outside who can take those decisions away. Thus, our beliefs, those constructs, define our navigational path within the reality created by our sovereign integral. We do not need to tell another individual how we believe, let us see how we believe. These belief constructs, if they are to have value to us in our three-dimensional reality and to the one and all, they end up in our behaviors. For some this can happen almost instantly, and for others it may seem that it never happens. For those in the latter category, the beliefs we carry inside us are layered mostly as a result of the arrow of time. These layers of belief are generally built on the reality of our ego, mind, and emotions, traveling through three-dimensional spatial moments. These beliefs constitute who you have been, and they will most likely try to hold on to us. They have a grip and they are not likely to let go until they feel the new belief constructs are practical in the sense of helping to create a better three-dimensional reality. And this is the odd thing about these belief constructs. They do not have an expectation or a real practical, down-to-earth expected outcome like manifesting more financial security, a new relationship or a better career. Those are belief constructs that have practical purpose. These belief constructs, aforementioned in this paper, do not have an expectation other than to form alignment. Again, there is no right or wrong way. There is only our way. We decide. We allow all things to exist, because it is one and all, and our belief constructs aspire to be aligned to the will of one and all. And alignment is, as said before, our expression of love to one and all. To hold to this alignment with a steadfast commitment is perhaps our highest expression of human love to one and all.